Some people know what really happened in 2008 when basically all the loans got recalled and people are like, oh shit, we can't repay. Is that something that you worry that is going to happen again?
No. And here's why. Is like, in 2008, lending was crazy. I mean, there were no income, no asset loans. Whatever you put on the application is what you made.
Do you think that fearing damnation will at least influence you to become a better person?
I believe that I'm saved by grace. I'm not saved by work.
You suckered a jiu-jitsu black belt into that move?
I did it after. So like fight starts, 10 seconds in, I'm in a deep guillotine. I'm like, how the crap did I just get here?
This is the Nico Lagan Show. Warning. This show contains explicit content. Listener discretion is advised. Real, raw, and shooting you straight. This is the Nico Lagan Show. And now your host, Nico.
Welcome to the Nico Lagan Show. I am your host, Nico Lagan, aka Mr. Masculinity. This is a weird way to start, but we are talking about dogs' buttholes because Chris's dog is in the shot and he was just doing what we called what's that pose in yoga?
I think it is the downward dog.
The dog. Yeah, funny enough, it is the downward dog. So we saw the butthole of the downward dog. Strange way to start a podcast, but hey, this is what it is. Kris Hocum, everybody. What's going on, brother?
Hey, sir. Thanks for having me.
Sir, what the fuck? Yeah, I guess I am older than you, so you better respect your elders. Let's start with this. You were about to tell me a joke about something that happened when you were younger and you were in Canada, and as being a Canadian, I want to hear it, so let's go. So let's start with this.
We were talking about just the difference in currency, and so we were canoeing. We went up to the Boundary Waters twice and went canoeing in Canada, and we were at a checkout line getting supplies, and the lady was like, it's $110, and I was like, is that in Canadian or real money? And she looked at me, and I was like, and I was probably 10, 12, like...
She didn't think it was funny?
She was so mad.
Oh.
She just like, get out of my store.
But you know what? We're not helping because you look at our money, it looks like Monopoly money.
Right.
All different type of... It has all the colors of the rainbow on it, no pun intended, and it looks like Monopoly money. Compare your money. I feel that your money is a lot more masculine looking.
But it's all made up anyway, so...
It's paper. It's not backed by gold anymore, neither in the US or Canada.
Yeah.
So it's really just we accept that it's worth something, but technically it's not even worth it's worth the paper that it's printed on.
Right.
That's it. That's
right.
About what also that we could go in that direction. So I forgot you know what? I'm not going to introduce you. Introduce yourself. What who are you? What do you do, and where the fuck do you do it?
So Kris Hocum, now I am a mortgage loan officer, a previous MMA fighter, and dad, husband, and just loving life.
Would you call yourself a God-fearing man?
Absolutely.
So you are an old MMA fighter, a retired old. You're not that old. You're a retired MMA fighter.
Yep.
That now hustle people for their money for mortgages.
Help buy houses and make the American homeownership dream happen.
How's that? I don't know if I was going to say everybody knows, but when I say that, it's normally not true at all. Some people know what really happened in 2008 under the Obama administration when basically all the loans got recalled and people are like, oh shit, we can't repay. We're upside down on our mortgage. We owe more than what the damn property's worth now. Is that something that you worry that is going to happen again?
No. And here's why.
Was that sarcastic?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
And here's why. Is like, in 2008, lending was crazy.
It made no sense. Do you want to explain it a bit in actual terms, not somebody that talks out of his ass like me?
I mean, they were called no income, no asset loans. So whatever you put on the application is what you made.
Because they could not check people's credit, so they had to accept what they said, right?
There was programs that didn't check credit, didn't check income, if you said you made $1 million a year, that's what you made. And people got put in houses that they really couldn't afford, and there was weird loan programs of adjustable rate mortgages that you weren't even paying the interest. So each month your mortgage payment was amazing, but your balance was growing. And then it grew to a point that you started making a full principal and interest payment like normal, but instead of on a $200,000 balance, it was on a $500,000 balance, because it grew over that 10 years, and now you can't make your mortgage payment. And
so your house is not 200 grand, it's 500 grand because you didn't pay your interest for 5 years. All it did is accumulate. It's compound interest on the wrong way.
Right. Like if your monthly interest charge was $1,000 and you were only paying $800, well, that's an amazing payment, but you're adding $200 of balance each month, and it's growing and growing and growing.
And it compounds.
And then you have no equity, so you can't sell it. And that's why now none of that exists. Like, people actually are qualified, and sometimes it feels we're overqualified, because I've had a couple clients recently that I'm like, I would lend you my money all day, but on paper, you don't qualify for the traditional loan programs. But like in northern Colorado, most homeowners are sitting on 40% equity in their house. So that's why we're not going to have a 2008 crisis, and we don't have the inventory that we did in 2008. In 2008, builders were just building homes like crazy.
Yeah.
They are so far behind right now. We have such a shortage of homes across America that if there was going to be a 2008, it should have been last year, when interest rates jumped from the low 3s to the mid to high 7s.
Because right now that's where they're setting, like 725, 750-ish, like somewhere around there.
We've been bouncing. It's been very volatile all year, all the way from the low 6s to the mid 7s all year this year. And it's going to continue to be volatile until inflation comes down.
Which, under a Biden administration, this is like asking the tooth fairy to have a coffee with you. Ain't gonna fucking happen.
It's a tough one, because it's just each month, it's getting better by 0.1.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a slow. It's going to take some time for it to come back into the range that they want it to be.
Does it work like in Canada, where you have to sign, like you either do a variable rate or you do a committed rate, and you have normally the average like 5 years? Is that the same? Like, are we looking at the same thing?
I think a little different. Like, most, probably 99% of our loans are a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So,
but it renews every 5 years?
No, you're in that loan forever, as long as you're paying it.
So hold on, I don't get to renew my rates in the U.S. for 30 years?
You can refinance, absolutely. But
let's say that tomorrow I buy a house in Colorado, it's 7.25 the rates, like 7%, easy to calculate.
Yep.
I have a 7% rate on my mortgage. I sign a 30-year deal at 7%.
Correct.
The fuck?
But when rates drop, we'll refinance. But you have to qualify at that time again. You can't just drop your rate if rates are better.
That's interesting. In Canada, it doesn't work that way.
You're just
so we assume, let's say 30 or 35. Like, we will say, I will take a 30-year loan, but it's renewed every 5 years. Well, you could do it. Technically, you have people that sign up for 1-year loans.
Do you have to requalify each time?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's done. Like, before I renewed, I think I was in the high 2s.
Yeah.
Because last time I paid for the house, it was just dirt cheap.
Rates were low.
And now I think by the time I went, it was mid 5 ish. So it basically doubled in 5 years.
So you don't have a rate forever.
I have a rate for 5 years.
That's interesting.
So if you're a gambling man, you could say, I'm going to take variable this time instead of taking a fixed one. Because back in when it was 3, high 2s, variable would have made sense. Because they literally went from like 5 to 4 to 3. Like it was going down. It stayed there for a while. So if you want to gamble, if you have money that you can spare, variable makes sense in these situations. Like today, a variable doesn't make sense.
Yeah, especially, I mean, the typically variable rates, like in the U.S., like we do have variable rates where they're fixed for 5 years or 7 years, and then after that 5 or 7 years, that rate the rate adjusts every year or every 6 months after that. You don't have to requalify ever again, but that rate will adjust. My first house, I bought my first house when I was 19 at 6.5% on a 5-year adjustable rate mortgage.
Sure.
That was 2004. So when did it adjusted was 2009 when everything was in the tank. No, it was good.
Yeah.
Because I actually adjusted all the way down to 2.125 for a while.
Yeah.
And then it was starting to climb back up, and that's when I refinanced into a 20-year fixed rate loan at that time.
When you deal with customers, or I think you call them clients, when you deal with a client, are they researched? Do they know? Are they knowledgeable on how the system works, how mortgage application works, how interest rate works? Like, are they aware, or are they pretty much deer in the headlights?
Most are not, but that's where
They're not informed.
They're not informed. But that's where, in my opinion, that's where like I separate myself from my competition. Is I take my first initial I'll have a conversation with the client for like 10, 15 minutes, figure out, who are you? What do you do? Like, so I know what to ask them for. But when I build their options and we go through everything, we actually take an hour so that I can educate them on interest rates and their credit score and what programs are available, pros and cons of all of these thoughts, so that it's not just, hey, here's your loan, go get it. It's, this is why this is your loan for you, based on the goals you told me, your situation, your income, all those things.
Can you explain because I follow a lot of guys that do a lot of investment in real estate, and in the US, you got programs we don't have in Canada. Like there's ways for you to have a house that's your secondary house with no down payment, or even your third, fourth, and even if it's your 20th, with no down payment, no equity transfer, and I don't understand how that works.
And some of that's tightened up a little bit, but yeah, I mean, you can buy your first house with a down payment assistance program.
Sure.
There's some income limits and credit score limits and things like that. But I just had a client that closed 2 weeks ago that he bought a house with exactly $1,000 out of pocket.
Even after the closing cost?
Everything.
The $1,000 was your closing was the closing cost?
Everything. Because the seller paid for the closing costs, and that program only required that he had $1,000 out of pocket.
Was he a VA? Was he a veteran?
He wasn't.
Not even
a VA.
How the hell did that happen?
It's one of the down payment assistance programs that are out there, and it's beautiful because the assistance he has to pay back, but only when he sells or refinances the house down the road. Awesome. So it sits there as a silent second mortgage. But a trick that a lot of people don't know is, on your second house, you can keep that first house as a rental and go buy your next house with 5% down.
See, we can't do that in Canada. You can get 5% down on your first house if it's your first house. You can even have something that we call RRSPs, which are a retirement fund that you put through the government, but it's pre-tax, so there's no tax. Let's say that I invest $500 per month. It will take the money directly from my pre-tax income.
Okay.
And I can use that for when I retire at 65. But if I'm buying my first house, I can take money out. I could basically take a ton of money out, do a down payment. It could be a 5, could be a 20, could be 50, whatever.
Yep.
But you're capable on your first house to have 5% down automatically. Mm-hmm. But if it's your second, like me, for example, I could never get 5% anymore. it would have to be 20% minimum because it's my second house.
Yeah, and this is how my wife and I have built our rental portfolio. Is my dad was a loan officer, so I bought that first house when I was 19.
Because he showed you that it's very smart to own property right off the bat.
Mainly, he was like, "You're not renting. We're buying a house." And I went,
"That's awesome."
Okay, Dad.
No, but that's awesome because this is something that I talk about the impact of men on their sons. My ex-wife's brother was 19 when he opened his first business, but he grew up on Excel spreadsheet, understanding how to run a fucking business because his dad is an immigrant and he was worth 20 million by the end. 100% come from nothing. He's owned like 10 businesses. So you had a guy that's just sitting at the computer learning from his father. So
yeah,
it makes sense.
I mean, like I look back at that because like I was 19 and I was like, cool.
Yeah,
like,
Dad,
this
gonna
is
have
awesome.
a house.
And when I bought it, when I bought it, Mom and Dad co-signed for me because I was 19 and Mom and Dad gave me the down payment for, we did 3.5% down FHA loan, bought my first house. And I had 4 other roommates when we first moved in. It was a very interesting group of people, but I was paying $300 a month to own my own house. We have a cool term for this now. It's called house hacking, where you buy a house and you get roommates so they pay your mortgage. I was doing that before it was cool.
Before there was a name for it.
Yeah.
But you know what? What you're saying there is something that people, like, this ties up in something that pisses me off. People are not ready to sacrifice for the long game.
Yeah.
Like how many, I've talked about this often and I'm going to say it again. At my old job, like I was a sales engineer for one of the biggest telecommunication companies in Canada. I made really good money. All the guys are driving Porsches. All the guys are driving Mercedes. They have nice house. I'm living in a fucking wood in a log house, thinking about how I can separate myself from that job. Yeah. That was my last 3 years before I left Canada. I drove a 2014 Nissan Rogue. Mm-hmm. But most people are thinking, oh, I want a bigger house. I want bigger things. I want bigger things. I want them now.
Yeah. This house that we're in now, like this is a dream that we've been working on.
And it's a nice house. Like we weren't sure we're at the right place because the way you made it sound the other day is like, I live in a shack, bro. Like you almost made it sound like it wasn't a shack, but we're like, I sent you a text. I'm like, is that the right address? I guess it was.
But because we bought that first house, we lived in it. I used the equity from it to buy another rental. And then 2 years later, we moved into a new primary home, lived there for 2 years, bought another new primary home.
Did you keep them all?
Kept them all.
So how many you have now?
We have 5 rentals that we own ourselves. And then I'm a partial owner of a 9-unit complex in Florida.
Good for you.
Never lived in that one, but
so you're a lot smarter than you look.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You always judge the ears, right?
The ears.
As a fighter to a fighter, you right away you say, "Oh, he's been in a lot of fights. He's probably punch drunk. That guy's an idiot." No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, obviously, but it's. What would be your advice to a 20-year-old right now that doesn't have a good father or doesn't have that doesn't sound right. That doesn't have a good role, a good masculine role to teach him the ropes. That's wondering what the hell should he do? Because we lack those roles nowadays. So what would you say to a 20-year-old that's starting up his life that don't want to work for the rest of his life, basically?
Well, I think there's 2 answers to that question. One is you got to get the right mentorship, because one of my mentors when I was young told me where you're going to be in 5 years from now is based on the books you read and the people you associate with.
100%, 1,000%. Not even 5 years. Like I can tell you 6 months from now.
Yeah. It's the whole, your mom told you growing up, like, don't hang out with those people because you're going to be like them. Well, it does work in the opposite way too. So
yep. 100%.
Find those people, because a lot of people who are successful are willing to teach what they've done and they want to share that knowledge. And that's really what I found is there's a lot of successful people in all industries that you can go find. And with our technology between books and podcasts and seminars, like you have access to all that now that like our parents didn't have.
It's if there's an advice I could tell people, don't be scared to ask.
Yeah.
Because so much people are worried that the other person's going to say no if you ask for help. Who cares? You're in the exact same situation that you were before.
And I think you'll find like the successful people are not the critical ones.
No. It is always broke, lazy motherfuckers that will talk shit. Successful people don't have time. They're too busy making money.
Yeah.
They're too busy. And if they see somebody coming up, chances are they'll recognize themselves in you and say, man, yup. But you have to be ready to do the work because they're not gonna stand around to convince you to do the work.
Yeah.
They'll point a direction saying you should check that way. There's might be something for you. If you're not going, they're not talking to you anymore though.
Yeah. And then I think the second part of that, like financially, and obviously like I'm biased because this is really where I think wealth is created, is get your first house. Find a way to qualify for that first house, even if it isn't the dream, because especially in northern Colorado, historically, since they've been tracking it since 1978, we average 5.7% a year growth in equity.
Even through the 2008 fiasco.
I mean, it went down, but
it's averaged
that.
in there.
Mm-hmm. And it's actually better than that, because if you take that first house that I bought, I bought it for $207,000 in 2004.
Yeah.
I've owned it in August. That'll be 19 years that I've owned it. That it should be worth about $440 based on that.
Doubled-ish.
Doubled-ish.
Yeah.
It's not. It's worth $550 in that range, and it'll be paid off in 11 years.
Yep. And you have all that equity. You at least have $300,000 of equity in that house by now. So
more, but yeah.
I'm just saying I don't know how much. Like I don't know how much you're paying, but you have at least $300,000 of equity in that house. And this is a bank account.
It is. And
it's a bank account that grows without you doing anything.
Well,
except manage. You have to manage it. You have to maintain it, obviously. But
I always tell people, I'm like, real estate is not a passive investment when you first start, because hey, my microwave broke, or come fix this, or whatever the case. But one day that even without selling it, it's going to be its own little retirement check, each month.
Yeah, because that's how I see it too. You just cash them out when you're done, sell them all, you're done.
Or just keep letting the renters pay, and that's $2,500 a month of income.
I don't think there's a bad way to do it.
No.
There's not. Sorry, there are bad ways, but I don't think there is a wrong way to look at this situation to say, would you rather continue managing them? Because as you said, don't believe what people tell you on social media. This is not a passive income. There's no such thing as passive income.
No.
I like when people say that, but it's just to sell you a course. Sure. There's no such thing as passive income. There's always something
to do
that goes into it. That's like a self-made millionaire. Fuck you. You're not self-made.
Yeah.
You're just selfish because you're not recognizing the people that helped you, but you're not self-made. I don't believe in that for a second. It's, I find it more riskier and riskier to do real estate, especially in North America. Like with what's going on right now, if you look at the inflation rate that your buffoon and chef is keeps piling, and the guy in Canada is no fucking better, whatever. Man, what an idiot. But it plays a big trick on people. Because for you, it's not that bad when you look about it, because if you say that right now you're locking at 7%, let's say, you don't really, if you can make your payments at 7%, you're fine.
Right.
Because you could literally leave it at 30 years at 7%, and that's what it is. In Canada, it does not work like that. You have to renew it every year, 3 year, 2 year, 5 year. Like mine doubled last time.
Right.
What happens if you have a family that, you have a guy that's bought his first house, lived in there, built a bit of equity, pulled the equity out. I built my business on the equity of the house that I have. This is exactly what I did. I renovated it all myself, did a full reno, took the money out, invested it in the business that I'm running now. But what happens if in 5 years from now, like you don't have the equity in it anymore, it doubles in price again.
Right.
Like your interest rate is
Mm-hmm.
double again.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot.
You're paying all your interest payment is almost as big as your mortgage.
Yeah.
So does that not worry you in this? Because right now I don't think it's a problem because it's locked in, right?
Yeah, because the only part of your payment here that changes is your taxes and your insurance. So property taxes will go up.
But you have massive property taxes compared to us, though. At least in certain states.
Certain areas, yeah. Like East Coast is huge. Texas, actually, their property taxes are larger, but they don't have state income tax. So
everything's bigger in Texas, right?
There's a benefit there, but like here, like one of our rental properties, because they just reassessed the value in January, our taxes are going to go up $1,000 a year.
Okay, so that's
it's not insignificant, of course.
yeah.
I mean, and for us, like, well, that's unfortunately going to get passed on to the renters. They're gonna when their leases renew,
$80 more a month.
They'll pay more.
Yeah.
And all my rentals are probably under market value. I have the thought of, if I've got a good tenant, I'm going to take care of them because it's way more expensive to replace them
or to deal with a bad one that destroys your place. I'd rather do less money, but everything's paid for. I don't, because this is another thing that. What do you think about people? Because we're always thinking about influx of money or cash flow. So people want to charge as much as possible as they can on their renters, instead of simply seeing it, if my house is worth that much with everything in it, add 10% for collateral so that I can continue updating the house over the years, and that's it. Because the house pays itself. Like, people are so obsessed with making money now instead of seeing this as a 5, 10, 20, 30-year plan.
Right.
Or whatever plan. If you plan for a business and you show the lender that you own 5 houses, that you have $1 million in equity in the houses, that counts as your net worth.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of trying to get the money right away, people don't understand that they're like bank accounts at interest, right?
Yeah, and I think, sometimes even shorter term, like, hey, I could get $200 more a month.
Yeah.
Well, a carpet replacement is not even that. So that's like, it's like it's good to make money, and but it's also good to provide a fair product, I think, to the tenants. And I was talking to a friend of ours, Matt, and he telling me of a client that just wasn't looking at the big picture. They were looking at just the money financials, and then when he sat down and looked at their total net worth, it was like, oh wow, like, we actually are worth 7 figures.
Yep.
Because of all these little decisions we've made, even though they weren't focused on that piece.
Yeah, because it's not one bank account that says, you don't log into your bank app and like, hey, I have 5 million sitting in an account, or I have 700,000 sitting in an account. It's, you have to calculate it you have to put it on paper and say, oh shit, okay, hold on.
Yep.
This is worth that much. I owe that much. Oh Jesus, okay. You start adding up and it makes sense.
There are some. I have my monthly budgeting program that I use does show you your net worth, and it's really fun. Like, you log in, you're like, oh, okay. Then you look at your bank account. Oh, okay. Got to go to work. It's not the same, but it good and bad that way. But
yeah, because you know what? Every time I see a celebrity, I'm like, celebrity name, net worth. People out there that don't have any money always think that that's what they have. They're like, Elon Musk is worth $100 billion. That guy's so selfish. Okay, hold on there, asshole. He's not sitting on $100 billion in a bank account that he has his debit card that he can take money out. Like, this is all his business. This is all his assets. This is all the people that work for him.
Right.
This is all the family that he supports doing what he's doing.
Yep.
There's such a misconception when it comes to net worth. It's not money in the bank there.
Yeah. Most of the time it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, some are better off than others, let's say that. But for the most part, it is not the case at all. What made you... You know what? Before I ask you this question, I don't want to forget, and this is quite the transition. But when we first met, by the way, for you that's listening, Kris and I met last week. Was it last week? Yeah. Well, we met last week. Matt is a common friend that we have. I was looking for a commentator for a fight event that I was doing. Kris didn't want to be bothered, so told him to fuck off, and he introduced me to some. No, but seriously, he couldn't do it. But he introduced me to Rustin Hughes, and then it was the first time we really sat down to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked a bit the other day, but you mentioned something when just after the fight, and we were just chilling because you. Oh yeah, this is worth mentioning before I go into this. I'm recording at Matt's gym. It's just him and I. Matt has a cool gym, like it's 2-story. There's business offices in the top with a studio, but we're sitting there recording the fights. Rustin and I turn around and there's a weird guy just standing there in the hallway staring at us. I've never met you before. No. I figured it was you because you said you'd swing by, but this is the first impression. You're a fucking creep.
Just a ninja.
But we ended up sitting down afterwards, and you said something that was cool. You said that you and Matt have attended a course where you would learn how to defend your church.
Yeah.
Which I thought this is absolutely cool because we're talking about the guy in Texas, the firearm instructor that somebody tried to shoot up the place, shot the dude at like 50 yards with a handgun in a crowd of people. 1 bullet, the guy drops dead right there.
It was an incredible shot.
This is the type of shot that should have a YouTube video as a warning. Those are the type of people that you'll meet in church. But all to say that you and Matt took a course on how to defend your church. Explain that to us because I thought that was incredible.
I mean, actually, it was every quarter we were doing some sort of training with church and the security team because, you look at, especially in America, where does most of the shootings take place? And it's in large bodies of unarmed people. And so
soft targets, as we like to call them.
And unfortunately, we live in a world that there's evil and there's people that are broken and are going to do bad things and you have to be ready. And so church paid for training for us to do firearms training. We also did de-escalation training and awareness and all those things. And some of those actually were super impactful too, doing some of those scenarios, dealing with someone who's contemplating suicide, but has kind of passed that barrier to where it's going to take others with us. And it was really eye-opening and the idea is if you have people that are aware and prepared, the danger can a lot of times be mitigated because a lot of times those targets are where there's not going to be a response. They're looking for the easy out.
Yeah, they're like bullies. They're cowards. Mm-hmm. Like calling a spade, bullies are cowards. How do you stand up to a bully? Kick his ass. Same thing's true with mass shooters. Mm-hmm. They don't pick targets that they believe are hard targets because they're not gonna. The guy in Texas, I guarantee you that he didn't think, oh yeah, the firearm instructor's right there, I'm gonna start shooting at this dark. No, he thought it would be easy.
Yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is church did not pay for prayers. They actually taught you to defend that church. It wasn't just sitting around hoping that shit doesn't happen.
Yep. Yeah, they paid for all of that. First aid, CPR, trauma response, de-escalation and firearms training. And we had to go through certification and recertification to ensure our capability of doing that.
Is it at Foundations?
No, we were attending a church up in Fort Collins, Timberline Church.
Okay. This is I had a word conversation about Matt. I'm not going to repeat it here because he's not here, but I like to think about philosophy like I'm I'm a God-fearing man, but I have my limits. And you know, the more the world, especially in North America, is going where it's going, the more, I hate to make it to make it political, but the more the left is eating up at our rights, eating up, eating up, eating up. When is enough enough? Like, as a God-fearing man, in a situation where you have somebody that does want to cause harm, but you're somehow dealing with the de-escalation. And for people that don't understand what de-escalation is, trying to avoid a conflict with words. You de-escalate the situation, as in you don't start screaming at somebody that's irate. You try to calm them down while being vigilant that it's not a trap for you that they're using to shoot you. But how do you feel about taking somebody's life to protect a church, for example? Because that's a great example. As a God-fearing man, in a situation like the firearm instructor, for example, he didn't have anything to de-escalate, but how would you feel taken away, or how can you imagine how you would feel taken away? Do you think that it is one life is worth many?
Yeah. I mean, and you know, my first concealed carry class, and the instructor that we had was like, don't take this class just so you can carry a gun and think you're John Wayne and you're cool. Like, if you're going to carry a firearm, train, prepare, train mentally, because basically he categorized, we have three categories of people. We have sheep, who are blissfully unaware, and we have wolves, who are symbolize the evil.
Yep.
And then we're the sheepdogs that are there to protect the sheep. And if you're going to carry, you have to be prepared that could be reality. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, I hope that I get through my entire life without that being a reality, because while that firearms instructor did the right thing and protected and saved lives, it's probably still something he deals with, you know, that he thinks about daily, you know, and while that decision can't be taken lightly, evil has to be stopped with force to deter others from the same action.
You know, that's interesting, because I like what you just said. So first off, you're saying that you would agree with the only thing that evil needs to do is for good men to do nothing. Like let me rephrase that. The only thing that evil needs to do to win is for good men to do nothing.
Yep.
And you also think that you need consequences to your actions.
Yeah.
Because if you start establishing that certain places are not safe zones anymore, people will stop shooting them off.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it won't stop everything, because there's always going to be evil in this world. And this is where faith comes in. You know, we live in a fallen world, but a lot of that is because people mimic, and if there's a fear of repercussion, most will not follow that path, and it'll deter them from making those bad choices.
Do you think that the fear of damnation makes you a better person, or makes you let me rephrase that. Do you think that fearing damnation will at least influence you to become a better person?
Yes and no, because like I believe that I'm saved by grace, I'm not saved by works. So like I believe that because
you get to be lazy and do nothing as long as you're a good person. Is that what you're thinking?
No, you don't. Believing in Jesus Christ means I get to go to heaven. But believing in Jesus Christ means that once and this is where I think a lot of people have it wrong, where they want to fix themselves before they go find faith. And I'm like, no, come broken. Faith will fix you, because once you do have that, you'll start making those small corrections. And it is small, and it's a never-ending battle, even your whole life. And so come broken, and then you will start making those decisions to become a better person, and not because you want the glory of being a better person, but because it's what you've been called to do and change.
So would you say then that it is an issue today that we're trying to push religion out of people's lives?
Yeah.
Because if you look at what the government's doing, they are literally, like I was just watching a video yesterday of a senator. I don't remember where he was from, but he was interviewing somebody that was applying to be one of the main judge on the Supreme Court, like a woman. And he starts going through, okay, hold on. During the COVID pandemic, you forced church to close. They were not allowed to gather. But yet your mayor, the mayor that you represented in court, was part of those massive BLM protests where people were no mask, everybody was one-to-one, close to each other, but that was acceptable. But you refused the churches to gather outside 6 feet apart with masks on. And people need to stop lying to themselves that governments are not doing that, because they are doing it. Yeah. If you look, the government has replaced church. If you look at it, like call a spade, government is the new religion right now. You believe, instead of believing in God, you believe in your government.
Yeah.
Do you think that's problematic? Like, do you think that the lack of faith is an issue today?
Absolutely. And in that, growing up, it was, I knew there was persecution of faith across the world, where people are meeting in their home so that the government doesn't come and arrest you. But there was never that couldn't happen here. But and not just even the government, but society, as the mob has kind of turned against faith, and it's and that I do think is problematic, because we could see true persecution in the near future, which is wild.
I don't think we're far off either.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a conspiracy theory either. I really do believe it to be coming sooner than later. Like, just look at a white, straight man nowadays. A lot of problems are put on our back because we're straight and white. Like, that's somehow an advantage. What's the word? Privilege. Somehow that's a privilege, and it's our fault. And Josie and I have been traveling the U.S. for more than 8 months now. We spend most of our time down south. And you know what? I can tell you first off that where people are more faithful, that have more faith, they're nicer people. 100%, like hands down. Like, I can tell you that, take Virginia, split it down the middle. Like my mentor lives in Richmond. So I like to say split Richmond right across the country, east to west. Everything above it seems to be a bit crazy, because it seems like the Canada craziness is going through the border. It's infecting, it's leaking through the border and infecting people. But it seems that, from a personal experience, and I have no statistics to back that up, but the further south you go, the more involved in church they seem to be. At least it's more prominent. People are nicer.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that people can't say that anymore. Because I don't know for you guys, but I know in Canada we make fun of the southern states. Like, we all call them rednecks. We have no idea what the hell we're talking about, but in our head, those guys are a bunch of idiots that sleep with their cousin, basically. And the more educated, the better people live more north of the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I can tell you that if I would never live in the north. Never. The people down south are so much more kind. They seem happier. You know that for the past 6 months, we haven't seen somebody wearing a mask until we hit Colorado. We were in Denver last week, and people are walking in the street by themselves with a mask on.
Yep.
I don't even know what to say to that. Like, this is the type of person that 100 years ago would be dead. They wouldn't have survived. Like, they would not have made it. But Colorado seems to be nice by spots.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know. I love Colorado, but I love
You're biased.
I love the nature. I love what Colorado is. And you guys haven't got to enjoy the sun because it's been raining here
Do you
like
even
crazy.
guys have sun here? God damn, the weather sucks here.
It's been wild. It's been wild. This is the most rain I've ever seen, but
We brought it, I guess.
maybe.
Yeah, it's all our fault. When we're going to leave, it's going to be perfectly,
Dry.
it's going to be beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, we got a lot of snow this winter too, which was incredible. But the rain's a lot. But with all the fires we had over the last couple of years, it's welcomed.
Turn it off and turn it back on. It's, this is the pleasure of having equipment that you're transporting everywhere. Sometimes you need to play with it in the middle of a recording, but since we're running so many cameras, it's not a big deal. I didn't grow up religious. I was baptized and that's the end of it. And I've been considering getting baptized as an adult. I don't like the Catholic way of doing it, baptizing. And I never agreed to this. My parents basically forced me, right?
Right.
But the more I spend time in the U.S., the more we spend time in church. Like we were in church, we're at Foundation on Sunday. Turns out Matt shows up there at the same time. So because Foundations has the new pastor. Yeah.
His message on Sunday was awesome.
Were you there?
Mm-hmm. I was at 11.
Oh yeah, we were there at 9.
Yeah. We went to it. We took the kids to their first country concert Saturday night, so there was not getting up at 9. But
was it cool though? A country concert?
It was awesome.
Because this is a weird thing for the people out there that's never been to Colorado. You have cowboys out of fucking nowhere. Like today at the store, you have this 75-year-old hardcore cowboy there, can barely stand straight, but you could tell that guy was a beast. And then most of the people are just dressed as what you imagine an American dresses like. You guys have a mix of both, and they just live together. It's really funny.
It's awesome. Yeah, we went and saw Kane Brown, who he's a very mixed, because not what you would expect as a country artist.
So he's Asian?
No, he's
because I wouldn't expect that. Sorry, I would not expect that at all.
He's an African American,
cool.
and but from Georgia, and it's great just because when you go to concerts and like you've heard their music,
yeah,
and you listen to them, you go,
you're not the same.
You're auto-tuned.
You got some good studio people, yeah.
Not Kane.
No,
like it is what you hear on the radio. It's good.
There's something lost in translations when you listen to a record. Wow, listening to a record. Hey, boyo, I'm 80 years old, but listening to a recording of a song, the soul doesn't go through it the way it goes into concert, right? Yeah. And the mix of people that are there just, I love we haven't been to a massive football game yet. But this is one of the things we want to do. I don't even care about football. I'm a fighter. I don't care for football. But being in a state, being in the equivalent of a concert with 100,000 people vibing to the same game, that's fucking awesome.
I mean, I got to go to the Denver Nuggets just won NBA Finals last night.
Oh, did they really? The Nuggets. That's such a weird name. All I can think of is a chicken nugget. Ooh, so frightening.
But I got to go to the game 1 of the Western Conference against the Lakers.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I've ever been to...
Was LeBron there?
He was.
And seeing him lose makes me happy. I cannot stand that guy.
It was great. It was just like, I've never been to a playoff basketball game. And I always tell people like sports are fun to watch when it's playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Like when it's finals.
Oh, yeah.
College.
The energy's not the same.
Like they bring it up. And that environment of like Denver, all that stadium was packed and beating the Lakers in that first game. And I can't imagine what it was like last night, but but being in that stadium is pretty awesome.
That's interesting that I don't follow basketball anymore since the rules change and they're all prima donnas now. I don't really enjoy it. You know, I always think about, did you ever see the meme of a Muay Thai fighter and a soccer player? You have the soccer player that's on the ground holding his shin bone, and then you have the Muay Thai fighter. It's all cut up.
Right.
And the caption says, for the soccer player, it says, trying to convince people that he's hurt. And then you have the Muay Thai guy that is bleeding everywhere, trying to convince people that he's okay. And this, to me, is what basketball's become. Like, I was looking at the best 20 dunks of Michael Jordan, where he is dunking on people. Like, people are jumping in front. There's no foul. He's just, like, running through three guys. Today, it'd be a pivot. Like, you're in movement, so it'd be a foul. Mm-hmm. Like, today, we look at somebody, like LeBron's a big faker. Like, what a big prima donna that guy is. But that kind of kills the sport. Like, when you remove that, they're making it soft.
Right.
And it bothers me.
Yeah.
Like, basketball is a game I grew up playing. I'm a big fan of basketball, but I don't like the new sport that it's become.
I think at least the officiating last night let a lot go.
Yeah.
Because there was like, ooh, that was good.
But as they should. They should. It's supposed to be a man's sport.
Yeah.
And those guys are big boys. Like, people don't understand how big they are. If you've never been to a game, I've played basketball with guys that are 6'10". I played with a guy that was 7'6". It's fucking big.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just, oh, that guy's a big guy. No. That guy's humongous.
He's huge. He's
like,
huge.
You don't understand. Like a LeBron, what is he? Like 6'6", 6'7", probably weighs 260 pounds. And he's not that big.
He's not the biggest.
For 6'6"? No.
Yeah.
I know a buddy of mine that's 6'7". He's like 350.
Yep.
Okay, let's say that he's not jumping around like LeBron is. Let's all agree to this right now. But there's something to fighting, yeah?
Yeah.
Like, there is something that fighting doesn't lie to me.
I agree. Like, I mean, I got into fighting. I wrestled.
See how I did that little transition into
it.
fighting? Like, we had to bring your fighting past, huh? You saw that?
You know, I wrestled in high school. I started wrestling. I didn't start till junior high.
So might as well say right now that you like to hug sweaty men.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You know, wrestlers were weird. We love it. You know,
you like the smell too?
There's nothing that beats the smell of a wrestling room. Like,
oh yeah. Josie in the background was like, ugh.
It's a different, but you know, the nostalgia now, it's like, it's hard work, you know, but
it smells like hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. And I fell in love with wrestling because, like, in 7th grade, I didn't want to wrestle. I made fun of wrestling. I wanted to play basketball.
Yeah.
But my stature is not going to be a basketball.
So what's worse,
player.
playing with balls or playing with sweaty men?
I'll take wrestling all day.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you get to play with 2 balls. No, I'm just kidding.
The junior high wrestling coach convinced me to wrestle, and I loved it because I felt like wrestling, especially for like high school kids, there's no other sport that pushes you mentally, physically. No. You're on stage by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
It's a team sport, but it's an individual sport. You know, because you're winning for the team and you're part of the team, but at that moment, it's just you. And that's when, so, you know, I won Colorado State Championship wrestling my senior year.
Good for you.
And got recruited to wrestle. Decided to go to the Air Force Academy because...
you're a vet?
No.
I was going to say, I didn't think you were that cool.
No.
Huh.
So I did get recruited because at that time I wanted to be a doctor. And if you go to the Air Force Academy, they'll pay for medical school.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is awesome.
Of course it is.
They don't tell you the details till you're there. Because when you go to the academy, you owe 5 years of service after.
Yeah.
So you got 4 years of the academy, 5 years of service. If you go to medical school, 4 years of medical school that you owe 8 years for, but you don't start paying back that 8 years until your 2 to 6 years of residency is up, and your 4 years of medical school doesn't count for that. Okay. So I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon, so longer residency. I was looking at 46 to 48 before I could get out of the Air Force. As an 18-year-old, that's a long time.
You'd still be in it right now. You'd be halfway through.
I'd be almost done. Now, you know, obviously.
You said 48?
48.
But you're 38, right?
38.
So you still have 10 years to go, bro.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know it, and at that point I was like, oh no.
I'll become a fighter. This makes way more sense.
Well, I was like, I'll just transfer to one of the other colleges that recruited me. But I got out and I went to CSU in Fort Collins for a semester. The plan was to go for a semester and then move on to Nebraska or Wyoming and wrestle. But during that time is when someone introduced me to jiu-jitsu.
Uh-oh.
And one of our teammates had their first fight. And he's like, you got to try this. And I was like, okay. And when I won the Colorado State Championship, it was at Pepsi Center now, Ball Arena now, where Nuggets just won last night. So it was packed for wrestling. So there was 20-some thousand,
Damn.
30. I don't know how much people fit in the Ball Arena, but it was basically almost packed. Winning there obviously felt top of the world. My first fight was at a country western bar called Sundance. Behind the bar, they used to do bull riding nights. So they had a bull riding arena set up, which my first date with my wife was her coming to watch me fight a Mexican fighting bull. That's a great story. But the first fight, it was in that arena. They put a boxing ring. There was 200 people there. There was nobody. But winning that fight. Now, I'm a wrestler with jiu-jitsu training, zero striking training at that time.
Yeah.
And they go, you're going to fight a boxer. And I go, great.
It was MMA, though.
It was MMA.
Took him down and you beat him up there.
And this was at 185 pounds. And I'm like, okay, he's going to be a big boxer. He was 5'6", really fluffy. Took him down.
Like he was fat. You're being politically correct.
Yeah, he was fluffy.
He was fat. Call a spade a spade.
I like fluffy because I consider myself fluffy now. But
yeah, that's true. I understand.
But won by armbar, and I felt the same exhilaration winning that fight in a bull riding arena with 200 people as I did winning state championship. And so I fell in love with fighting, and I fought that fight. I lost my next fight, but then I had some health issues where I couldn't fight for 4 to 5 years.
Yep.
But as soon as I was healthy, is when Trials Martial Arts opened in Fort Collins. Ryan Schultz and Ed Herman were the head coaches.
Ed Herman's a big boy. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
He looks like 185. He's like, what, 6'2", 185? Well, he fights at 185, so he's probably 210, 220.
And he's just thick.
Yeah.
He's
a redhead, right?
Yep.
You don't see a lot of fighters that are redhead. It's kind of weird.
He just retired. He was season 2 of The Ultimate Fighter, and he just retired after this last fight.
He's still fighting?
He's still fighting.
Where the hell was he fighting?
UFC.
Still
UFC.
What?
Yep.
Man, that guy's been fighting for, 20 years?
Gosh, I mean, when was season 2 of The Ultimate Fighter? 2004? 2005?
So I'm bang on. It's like 18 years, basically 18, 17 years in the biggest organization. And it's arguable one championship gets more viewership, but
sure,
one of the biggest, the most renowned, I guess.
Yep.
At least in North America.
But they opened a gym here, and one of my friends was like, "Come try it." And I was like, I told my wife, I was like, "I'm healthy, and if I go,
this is gonna happen.
We're gonna do this." And when we were dating, we were watching fighting, and it was before even that first amateur fight, and she was like, "That's what you want to do?" And I was like, "Yeah, like, gosh, I really like you. Please say yes." And she was like, "That's awesome." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, marry me." So I started training there, and then I fought 21 of my 23 total fights out of that gym. But it was
Ryan
great.
Schultz is an interesting guy.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you going into that gym as a newbie, and I still had zero striking training at that point.
Yeah.
If you go YouTube, Schultz versus Chris Hocum.
I saw it. I was there Saturday. I went to train on Saturday.
Okay.
I met Ryan. I met Rustin invited me, so I did his Be Bold.
Oh, nice.
So we had a bunch of normies with a bunch of shit. How did we call them? Damn, nubbies.
Nubs.
Yeah,
Yep.
we had a bunch of norms and a bunch of knobs. But it's cool though. See a bunch of guy missing legs doing martial art was awesome. There was
amazing.
like 4 of them.
Yeah.
This is freaking incredible to me. Like Rustin's absolutely great at what he does. That's really, really cool to see. But I got to speak to Ryan Schultz. I didn't recognize him. As then afterwards, it's like, oh, that's a guy that was in IFL.
Yeah. And you watch that fight, and Kris Hocum was not the same ever again after that fight.
He was one of the best Canadians at that time. Like he was out of Sean Thompson's training camp.
And Ryan gave him, we call it the Schultz handshake.
Yeah,
where
you
reach behind and you grab that arm. And
basically, the guy, Ryan, was in side control. He had, let's say that Horodeski was on his left side. He's holding, Ryan has he's on the side control on his, no, he was in guard. That's true. In half guard.
he was half guard.
He was half guard. So let's say that he's on his left side. He's holding his left arm with his left hand behind Horodeski's hand, his back, and then he's punching him in the face with the right hand. Took 2 punches, he's sleeping. I think he woke him up with the third and then put him back to sleep on the 4th. He's a monster.
It's so like going to that gym, that's my view. I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm literally going to die.
But he's one of the nicest guys I've met. Like super polite, super nice.
He is one of the most caring human beings. Like he will give you the shirt off his back. Like,
no, but that he does it on purpose because he's jacked.
He is jacked.
He's just like, let me give you my shirt.
He gives the same energy to his pro fighters.
Yeah.
We have a guy fighting in Bellator. Ryan puts the same amount of passion into him as he does my 6-year-old. And like, it's just because he loves people and loves making them better.
But he's, from the stories that I've heard, he's doing what he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Like
this is his calling.
Yeah. Not a lot of people get to discover what their calling, their purpose, I like to call it personal legend, but he's doing what he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And you see it right away. Like you can always recognize somebody that's doing what they were meant to do.
One of my favorite fights is I got the Schultz handshake.
You did it to somebody else?
To someone else with Ryan in the corner. It was awesome.
Did he go ballistic?
It was just like when we figured it out after, I was like, Schultz handshake. This is awesome.
Oh, you guys gave it the name?
Yeah, it's called the Schultz handshake. If someone, and we always tell people, like, when you start to posture up off of your side and side control, don't go to an elbow, because if you go to an elbow, I'm coming under and I'm grabbing your wrist, and
because it's creating space between the rib cage and the ground, so you're capable of sneaking that left hand in.
You got to go all the way up to your hand.
I always go all the way.
Yeah, but
so you got to go balls deep. I mean, elbow deep.
It was great.
Yeah.
That fight was jiu-jitsu black belt.
You suckered a jiu-jitsu black belt into that move?
Well, after I spent a minute and a half, 2 minutes, defending going unconscious, because he had me guillotined to Nagara to Darce.
You didn't finish him with the handshake?
No, I did after.
Okay.
So, like, fight starts, 10 seconds in, I'm in a deep guillotine. I'm like, how the crap did I just get here? Like, we knew we didn't want to go to the ground with this guy.
Whoops.
And so it was 2 minutes of me fighting, being choked unconscious, and finally I got out, and he was exhausted from trying to choke me, and got the handshake, knocked him unconscious, and won the fight.
If you guys don't understand what the salty, not the salty,
Schultzy.
I'm French. H words are not my favorite, but the Schultzy handshake. Look at Ryan Schultz versus Horodeski in IFL. It's like 18 years old, 15 years old.
Yep.
But it is brutal.
It's brutal.
Like the referee is an idiot.
He should have stopped at a couple punches earlier.
It's not normal that somebody gets knocked out, gets woken up, then gets knocked out again.
Yeah.
And from what I heard, he's never been the same. I know you mentioned it, but I heard that before. That fight, Horodeski was supposed to be a golden boy.
He was the next big thing.
and he's never been the same after that knockout, and it was brutal.
It was brutal.
Like, how much of a kid must you feel? But it's worth Googling.
Yeah.
Because it's super easy to find. It took me 2 seconds to find it, and I'm like, oh shit, I remember that fight. But it's cool to see Matt Lindland in his corner
In his
too.
corner. Yep.
Because this is what I find incredible about Schultz is he was at Team Quest
Yeah.
back when Dan Henderson, Randy Couture, Matt Lindland. This is crazy. When it comes to
All of them.
American wrestlers, you're talking about 3 fucking monsters.
Yeah.
And he's a small guy.
Yep.
Compared to Matt Lindland looks humongous. And Dan Henderson fought anywhere from 185 to 220, 230. So they're big boys.
And hearing his stories of that gym, of where it was, we're going in and we're fighting.
Every day when
every
we're
day.
training. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good for your brains, though.
No, probably not. But it's just, it's cool to hear those, like who was all there.
Yeah.
You know? We got to get some of the legends out because of those two, but over the years we got to train with Kris Hocum.
I was going to say because Kris Hocum too was
Yeah.
at Quest for a long time.
So they brought him out a lot.
Is he a cool dude?
It was fun. It was really fun having him do seminars. It was really, in that same time frame, we had a Dwayne Ludwig seminar.
Yeah, that's not the same type of striking at all.
And then we had a Kris Hocum seminar. Very different, but it was
Because
awesome.
Dwayne Ludwig is one of the best strikers in the UFC. Like, he's a coach now, but he is incredible. Like, his videos, if you guys want to get your mind blown, go check Dwayne Ludwig's videos online
Yep.
that he makes. He strikes in a completely different level. Like, it's so high-end for MMA fighters, the way he strikes.
It's kind of, I think one of the best high-level coaches right now is Trevor Whitman.
Yeah, that used to be with Greg Jackson. I don't think they're together anymore, or maybe they are, but either way, the tall, skinny white guy.
Yeah, because he brought, towards the end of my fighting career is right when Justin Gaethje moved from the World Series of Fighting to the UFC.
That is another weird guy.
He's-
He looks like nothing like a fighter, but he'll fucking put you to sleep with one punch.
That is the hardest I have ever been hit.
I've heard that guy is just, it's crazy, isn't it?
I've sparred with 205 pounders.
Yeah.
Gaethje's a 55. The first time,
He's 170, isn't he?
55.
Fuck off.
Yeah. First time he hit me, I was like, what the crap? I just had my wisdom teeth pulled out too, and I was like, I'm done. But they were coming up every Tuesday to spar with trials, and as Justin led into his UFC debut, and yeah, that dude, just his leg kicks, when he's in the pocket.
And he likes to fight there, too. He is not scared. And he has a good chin, too. Surprisingly, that guy can take a punch.
But he can whip those kicks in those tight spaces.
Yeah.
And it's the baseball bat to the leg, and it's just like, you should not be able to hit me that hard like that. Just does not logically make sense.
Is he a cool dude?
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
he looks like a super cool dude.
Yeah. I enjoyed, he was awesome.
Did you see the meme that's popular of him on Facebook? It's absolutely hilarious. It's a picture of him in the cage, just like in his shorts. Like he's a well-built guy, right? That most fighters are. And all it says, it's a conversation at the bottom. It's just a beautiful girl that says, I really want to have a guy like this in my life. And then you see him answer. He's like, hey, hello, how you doing? She's like, no, not you. I'm like, I'm literally the guy,
That guy.
up there. It's just that normally he wears glasses because he has a
and-
problem with one of his eyes, right?
I don't know.
But all to say that he looks like a nerd. Like you look at him, look at his face, the way he dresses, he doesn't look like a fighter.
He doesn't look like one of the most dangerous
No,
55 pounders in the world.
no.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. What's the name of the heavyweight champion in boxing? Shit.
Fury.
Yeah, Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
So 2 days ago, we're talking about this. We were watching Creed 3. What a piece of crap that movie is. But we were watching Creed 3, and I'm like, have you ever seen the heavyweight champion of the world? She's like, no. Because the guys in Creed 3, they're like 20, 30 pounds less than I am. and they're heavyweights. I'm like, yeah, okay, there, buddy. You're 5'11", 170 pounds. You ain't heavyweight.
Yeah.
Heavyweights are 6'7", and they weigh about 280 pounds. And I saw her. Like, you look at, what's the name of the black guy? Like, there's Tyson, there's Wilder.
Wilder.
That looks like a superhero. Like, he's
Yep.
built like a monster. And there's another black guy, too, that's built like a superhero. And then you have Tyson Fury, that's fat, little man titties, and he's a gypsy. But he's the heavyweight champ. He's beat them both, and next time they meet up, he's going to kick their ass again. But you never know who the hell you're dealing with, right?
No. Yeah.
And Gaethje's the perfect example of that.
He is, because, well, and like I always tell people, like, you come into trials and you look at, like when I was fighting, we had, our fight team was every background you could think of.
Yeah.
You know, of course, we had the police officers and firefighters, but I did mortgage while I was fighting. We had a financial advisor. We had a guy that worked for the fish hatchery. We had web designers and like.
Jiu-jitsu, it happens a lot though. Like very, very nerdy guy. And half of them are stoned out of their minds and they're choking you left and right. And you're like, what the hell just happened? Hey, you want to go again, bro?
Yeah.
Then you turn around, it's that skinny nerd. You're like, mother.
I know it's because fighting is, and again, like wrestling, fighting is mental.
Oh, yeah.
You know, my wife would tell you, like, the nights that I lost, she knew the second I stepped in the cage.
Yeah, before you even lost.
She's like, he's off.
Yeah.
He's not fighting. He's not 100% there, and you could see it, and it's a bummer because it's like some of those fights, I'm like, gosh, I want that one back. You know, like I could have beat that guy. You know, there's a guy that I beat that's still in the UFC, but he Muslim Salikov from Dagestan.
You beat? Oh, really? You beat one of those guys? So he was a wrestler?
No, he was the world wushu kickboxing champion.
Kung Fu?
Yeah.
Really?
So great story. My third fight.
You're a pro.
I'm a pro at this time because my pro debut was a 2-fight in one night tournament.
Nice.
That was awesome.
You know, it doesn't. If you, I'm sorry to cut you off, but if you guys are not watching the video, go on my YouTube channel at Nico Lagan and look what Kris looks like. He looks like a nerd. Like, Josie does not like when I talk to people like that, but she doesn't understand that martial artists don't have any shame when it I don't think I'm teaching you anything here.
No.
But with his ears covered with the headphone right now, we can tell that you can barely put a Q-tip in there. And with your glasses and your little polo shirt, you look like a fucking nerd. So hearing him say, I fought 2 guys that night, it was fucking awesome. It just makes me laugh. It's so if you're just watching the MP3, it's worth watching the video. We're at 1 hour and 15 minutes, so go check it out because it's hilarious.
But so I was training for a fight here.
Yeah.
And as you know, low level fights or all level fights, fight fell out. And my coach was like, one of the coaches at the gym was like, just stay ready. I'm gonna find you a fight. And I was like, okay. And he calls me on a Saturday. He's like, how do you feel about Lebanon? And I was like, Kansas? Because there's a Lebanon, Kansas. And he's like, no, the country. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, do you want to go fight in Lebanon in 10 days? And I was like,
yeah,
sure. Who are you fighting? And he showed me the videos, and Muslim is mean. Like, you watch his striking videos, like, from anybody I had fought at that point, he is mean. Like,
he likes to hurt people.
He is a good striker.
Okay.
And so I was like, but I'll take him down. You know, like, let's go do it. So we flew 10 days notice. My son is 3 months old. My 10-year-old now is 3 months old. We flew across country, me and Reed. It was set up by one of Reed's friends, Noah Thomas, who was in Jordan at that time. And we flew on 10 days notice to Beirut, Lebanon. I had a panic attack going because I have Christian tattoos. I've never been to a Muslim country. And I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And I get there, and it's Christmas time.
Yeah.
They have American Christmas music playing. It's
Yep.
Christmas trees. The city was there was beautiful buildings right next to buildings with bomb holes and bullet holes from the Gulf War. And, we get there, we weigh in, we go back to sleep, we rest, and it's fight night. And they take us over to this 4-star hotel that there's Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Range Rovers, and there's only like maybe 700 people in the crowd. And I feel like Jean-Claude and
Nice.
like, what was that movie where he was fighting for all
Braveheart. You're
with all
talking
the
about
rich people?
Braveheart.
Like, I'm like,
Cœur de Lion in French.
yeah,
But Braveheart, yeah.
it was. I was just like, what is going on? And we were the main event because he was expected to. He was actually supposed to fight a guy from Canada
So
that night.
basically, you were supposed to pad his record.
Uh-huh.
Surprise, surprise.
Well, we went out and we were prodding, and he hit me with one, and I was like,
That's not fun.
I don't want to do that. And he had a really good spinning back kick. But as soon as he threw it, I stepped in and caught it, took him down, and when we hit the ground, it was like, oh,
He's not that. You don't like it here.
you've never been here before. Like, he was not moving like a jiu-jitsu person would, and took his back and was punching him, hit him slipped a good left in there that he turned over and just, I was mounted when we were doing that. He turned over, gave me his back, and just
Choked him out.
said, please choke me, and that was one of the coolest experiences, because they let the crowd into the cage. It took an hour for me to leave the cage because I was taking photos with all the Lebanese celebrities, because they all friended me on Facebook after, and there was news people and figures, and it was awesome, and we got to meet a bunch of great people, and just learned that they're just people, just like us, and it was really awesome. But that guy's gone on, and now he's in the UFC, and he's been doing really good. I think he just got knocked out, but he's been on a tear. But
So the real question, when you won that fight, did you dedicate it to Christ? No, I'm just fucking with you.
because normally, absolutely, but they
although
didn't give me a mic after that.
But although you could, that's a misunderstanding that Christians have towards Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus is a prophet. He's just not the son of God.
Right.
But he is a prophet. So for you to dedicate your fight to Jesus Christ wouldn't have been weird to them.
Yeah.
Plus, there's a lot of people in Lebanon that are, like in Montreal where we're from, and even Ottawa, like Canada has a lot of Lebanese people because they're French. So after the war in the 90s, a lot of them immigrated to Ottawa, to Montreal, where we're from, and a lot of them are Christians.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of Christians. Like, normally the one that speaks French are Christian. But yeah,
it was such a great experience. Would I have done it again? I don't know, but it was great. Just getting to meet everybody and really open my eyes to people are people, and we just have different cultures and beliefs, and for the most part, we had a conversation of. I was talking to one of the fighters was an Iraqi police officer that was there, and they were translating, and he was like, "We love Americans, we just don't like American government." And I was like, "Cool,
yeah,
neither do we." So,
yeah, you and me both, bro.
But
that's the beauty of traveling. This is why I never understand. Like, if you look at the average person, they don't travel.
yeah,
And this is something that blows my mind. Like I look back at when I was 14 years old. I had already moved more than the average person does in their lifetime, but there's so many people that I knew from that time. I'm 41 years old, almost 30 years ago, still in the same town, hanging around the same people, living around the same areas. Like, it blows my mind. And to them, traveling is going down south in Mexico in an all-inclusive. Like, they never experienced something where they felt out of place.
Yep.
You know, you show up to a place and you're just like, holy fuck, I'm the minority. This is not normal to me to look around. I feel very foreign here.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, as you said, you simply discover that they're human beings just like you are.
Yeah.
They have different history. They have different... Their values are often extremely the same. They just don't come from the same part of the world as you do.
Yeah.
They look very different, but at the end of the day, they're human beings just like you are. And it's unfortunate that there's not... The average person doesn't travel more.
Yeah. Yeah, and, you know, you said Mexico. It's funny because, like, that's where we take our kids right now because it's easy with little kids. But, like, growing up, like, I got to go spend 3 weeks in outside of Santiago, Chile.
Yep.
And it was actually for a Boy Scout World Jamboree. And so there was...
Jamboree, I'm sorry. That's such a funny word.
But there was 30,000 scouts from all over the world. And it was incredible. It was just like, wow, there's a lot of people, but just, I mean, it was everywhere. Just all the South American countries, all the European countries. Like, it was great.
You know, this you're bringing up a weird subject, at least for me it is. How do you feel about Boy Scouts having girls in it?
You know, unfortunately, like, it's part of the reason why we didn't pursue Scouts for my son. You know, but, you know, a lot of the things that I loved about Scouts is the wilderness things that we got to do. And so that's a thing that we're actually really trying to focus to make sure the kids have. I'm bummed. There's a great organization called Restoration Project, and coming up, I think 2 weekends from now, they're doing a father-sons camping weekend, and it's just like little things like that doesn't happen. That's so good. Like, I mean, our Boy Scout troop, we did a week in Alaska. We did twice. We did canoeing in the Boundary Waters in Canada.
Can't believe we let you in.
We snuck in one time. We came over the border.
Come to our country to make fun of our money. What an asshole. I remember, and I have it recorded too.
It's recorded.
Yeah.
But just like all those, like, we did a lot of, like, we did ice fort camping here in Colorado, where we dug into the ice and camped there, like things like that just, like, it was great memories. And so
they don't do it anymore.
I don't know, but we're doing it. Like, you know, we bought, for this specific reason, we bought property up in the mountains so that we can just go. You know,
that's some first world problems
I know
there.
that.
Wow.
But
okay, I'm starting to understand the straight white men privilege here. Starts like smelling like privilege to me.
But like, it's just, you know, though, like, some of those experiences were some of my absolute favorites growing up, is just being in the wilderness.
I come from a very small town too. I grew up getting, you know, have you seen the series The Chosen?
I have not watched it yet, but
you should. We
Yeah.
started it a couple of days ago. We ran through the first season. I'm not a binge watcher because this is dangerous. Like, I have a very addictive personality, but it's very well made. It's very cool. And there's, in one of the first episodes, there's a bunch of children that play around Jesus. Like, they find him and he just talks to them like they're human beings. But I like the fact that the little girl is just, hey mom, I'm going to play by the water over there. She's like, don't go swimming. Yeah, okay, it's okay, mama, I'll be back. But this is how I grew up. I grew up, hey mom, we're gone. She's like, okay, be back by supper. Don't really give a fuck where you're going, just please come back. Which is probably why they had those commercials at the end of, at 9 o'clock at night. I don't know if you had that here, but do you know where your kids are? Because parents weren't. You didn't have that here?
I don't know if we have those commercials.
But in Canada, they had that, like, before, like, at the end of the night, do you know where your kids are?
Oh yeah, they're not at home. I should
Oh
go check.
shit! Maybe he never came back from the woods, did he?
Where did
But
he
I'm
go?
happy I grew up like that. I'm
Yeah.
happy that I grew up. Like by the time I was 12, I've broken bones. I was scarred everywhere. Like I was a boy.
Yeah.
We don't see that. Like today, the boys are not very tough.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I remember our first house here in Colorado when my parents moved us here. We had a field that they called it a green belt that me and the neighborhood boys, we built this amazing tree fort. And it was the same thing. It was just like all summer we were taking scrap wood and we were there just building and, you know, just being tough. But, you know, you went to Foundations
Yep.
on Sunday and
Yep.
he was talking about that. He's like, could you call our generation strong?
I like that pastor because he had the balls to say that.
Yeah.
And it shocked a few people in the crowd. And I don't think they were expecting that.
No.
So you guys imagine a very new school type of church. Like there's a band, there's massive screens everywhere. There's probably 400 people, 500 people that sits in that place, like ish. Maybe I missed that. But there has to be at
Probably.
least 300-400 people that sit there. It's packed. It's a packed day.
Yep.
There's like 4 cameramen recording this. Like they're doing a great job. And the pastor is calling people bitches. Not literally, but he's basically telling them they need to shit. What was the suck it up?
Mm-hmm.
He kept on repeating, "Suck it up." You guys need to. We all have to. But he's not 100% right.
Yeah.
And this is more my type of pastor.
Yeah, it was great. It was some of the songs he played. I'm like, he just played that in church. Holy
Yeah.
cow! Like the Walker Hayes song. I was like, I was not expecting that.
I'll show you. Hold on, I can show that to you. I'll get your. Have you been going to Foundation for a while?
Kind of like 2 months now.
So you're used to the other pastor as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that happens. I don't know how we got to this, but I got to square off with your pastor. And I have no clue. I don't know.
He loves martial arts. So like 2 weekends ago, he showed a picture. There was some local fights here at the Budweiser Event Center.
Yeah.
And he took a picture with Justin Gonzalez, who's out of our gym, J-Train. And he's like, I got to take a picture with this Bellator fighter. And I'm texting Justin. I'm like, you're on screen at my church, dude. So he loves martial arts.
But I don't know how we got there. But then he's like, you and I should put the boxing glove together. We should spar. I'm like, I'm down, bro. Like I'm good to go. But I don't know how. I have a tendency to bring really weird shit out of people. I start talking to them and I have no fucking clue how we get there. But by the end, he was inviting me to go spar with him. I'm like, sure, here's my information and you let me know. I'll do it. One thing's for sure. If I get to spar a pastor, my girlfriend's recording this shit. We're going to see that. I'm going to put that online. It's for sure. But he has big mitts. Mm-hmm. He got like his hands are the exact same size as mine, but his fingers are like two of my fingers. Like he has sausage fingers.
He's big.
But he seems like he's retiring.
Yep.
Well, retiring. Can a pastor retire?
Yeah. I mean,
you mean he's leaving his congregation?
Stepping out of the role, end of July. And the pastor you heard on Sunday is his replacement.
He's a big boy, huh? He looked a lot smaller on stage when he got off stage, and I went to talk to him afterwards. He's like a good 6'3", 6'4", like he's a big boy.
Wasn't small.
No, he definitely is not a small guy, but it's I like pastors like him, which are, we've done, as we're traveling, we're trying to go to church more and more, and even here in Colorado, I don't want to name names because it doesn't change anything, but you can tell right away somebody that doesn't have life experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a Catholic priest telling me about marriage. You've never been fucking married. What the hell do you know about being married? And this is too often it happens in churches, I feel, where the experience of the pastor or the priest is 100% based on the Bible. Like the Bible I don't live through the Bible. But the Bible explains, I see the Bible as a psychological tale. I will read the stories, and to me, that they happen or not is irrelevant. Because if you understand to read between the lines and look what the lesson is, you can apply it to your life and say, oh, you know what? I get it. I understand. You have something that you've done in the past. You have life experience to say, I did not understand that before, and I get it. And this is what he brought up.
Yeah.
This is something that I found that he was very good at doing, is bringing his personal experience and saying, you know what, the Bible tells us that, and this is why it tells us this, and this is my story that will explain to you exactly why you should listen to what I'm telling you. Not a lot of people are capable of doing this, and he did a very good job. Like I'll be back. We'll be back. We already agreed that we'll go back on. We're here for another 2.5 weeks, so the next 2 or 3 Sundays we'll go back.
Nice. Yeah.
He's I liked him. Like he did a good job.
And I think you'll get both kind of coming up then.
I already like the other guy just because of the way he's like.
He's like, let's square up.
No, I'm the one that told him that. He's just like, we should go sparring. You're like, do you mind if we square up? I'm gonna take I've never had the opportunity to take a picture with a pastor squaring up, and he's not a small guy.
No.
Like if you look at the picture, I'm 6'1", 200 pounds. He's about 6'3", 250 maybe. He carries a lot around the midsection, but he's not a small guy. Yeah. Like if he punches you, it probably sucks.
Probably would hurt.
Yeah, you probably feel it. But he seemed like you guys got a good church. You got good people in Fort Collins / Loveland.
Yeah. You
got a good community. You got good people here.
Yeah, I mean, we moved to this area when I was 7, and I love northern Colorado. I think part of it is just, again, like I can be in the mountains in 15 minutes, where we can be to Denver, in 45 minutes from our house. Like, but the people up here, it's just it's good.
The only thing I would say is that if you're planning about coming to Colorado, expect shitty weather, because the weather here fucking sucks. I had to bring it up again, but man, it's your fucking state is depressing.
It's been rainy.
We can't go anywhere. Like we haven't had. It seems that we were in Yuma for 2.5 months, where we had 15 minutes of rain. The biggest decision that we had is, am I wearing long sleeve shirts because it's 70 degrees, or am I in a wife beater because it's 100? That was the biggest decision we had to take. And we come here, been here for 3 weeks, and I don't think there's one day that it didn't rain.
Oh.
Like every day it rained. Like today rained most of the day. Now it seems like it's nice out.
Yep. But this is not normal. But
if you want to commit suicide, come to Colorado. The weather is going to be there to help you out. You won't last long. It's all good. If you feel depressed, come to Colorado. Just fucking end it here.
Except normally we're so sunny, but
yeah, everybody says that, and to me, it's all bullshit. I've heard this about 20 times. Yeah, but I've never seen this before. Yeah, fuck you, and go fuck yourself too. The weather is not what we're expecting at all.
Yeah, it was great this winter because we got so much snow. I mean, everybody did, but like we do family ski days, and so like. That's part of like our family time during the winter. And
yeah.
I know you said you don't like the snow, but
no, it's not that I don't like the snow. I spent 40 years in the snow, and you guys don't know what snow is. Oh, we got snow here. Yeah, you have a foot. In the backyard where I used to live, you have like 4 foot of snow. Like if the dog's not careful, they disappear. It's like, what the fuck? Where's the dog?
Where'd the dog go? Yeah, it was. But there's the most snow we've had in a long time too. So it's just like weather's just. Keeps raining.
Snow's fine. I just don't want to live into it anymore.
Yeah.
If I want to experience snow, is by choice, not because I live in a place where it snows. Never again. But I do see the value. I'm a big skier. I love to ski. I skied my whole life basically, so I understand. I just don't want to live into it. I don't want to live in it anymore. No. We gonna experience some really hot weather. No more snow for me. I think Josie's shaking her head in the background, and I think she agrees with me. Man, we've been going for 1 hour and 33 minutes.
That's awesome.
Not bad, eh? Some people just won't shut up, and you're one of them, which is great. No, it's just sometimes it's good when it's flowy.
Yep.
I appreciate your first and foremost. Thanks for having us in your house, because we don't know each other. We're like this is the longest we've ever spoken, so we appreciate it. It's funny how I'll finish on that, but it's funny how telling somebody, like, I can't approach somebody off the street and say, hey, I know who you are. You're a cool dude. I would love to grab a drink. You and I grab a coffee, just you and I. People are like, what the fuck? You know what? I think you're a cool dude. Can I bring all my equipment, my recording equipment in your house to record a podcast? Yeah, bro, no problem. That's not weird at all. So thank you for being fucking weird. And is there something you want to say in closing? Do you have something to mention? Anything? Close it off, bro.
Man, I think we kind of the common theme was just, people are people, and love people, change, but be strong to change the tide that's coming. But yeah.
Hold on. If you guys can hear that, I'm dropping a microphone.
You've been listening to the Nico Lagan Show. Nico has been involved in the martial arts for 20 years. He's a Muay Thai coach, focus coach, podcaster, and sought-after public speaker. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we hope you've gotten some useful and practical information. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Coach Nico Lagan and on YouTube at The Nico Lagan Show. See you next time.